The setting for the reading from the prophet Isaiah this morning was the fact that the Assyrians had conquered the kingdom of Judah, and it was compared to a forest that was completely burned. But the hope that Isaiah gives says, but there is a stump in the forest that will produce life again. And from that stump will sprout the offspring of David, the king. And Isaiah would have had no idea that the one who would be the descendant of King David would be Jesus Christ, the God-man. He would have been absolutely ecstatic to know that. He probably thought that it would be a man who would be possessed by the Spirit of God in a very wonderful way and would certainly lead people to justice and peace. But we know, and you and I, like the gospel just said, blessed are our eyes and ears, because we see and hear what they longed for centuries to see and hear, and that was the birth of the Messiah. And so as we begin the season of Advent, we're conscious of the reality of Jesus Christ. We all know the story of the birth of Christ in Bethlehem, but the reality of Jesus Christ as the last in the line of David, the King of Kings, that he came to make for us an eternal kingdom, that you and I will all die a death eventually, but it will not be the end. The kingdom of God awaits us, the kingdom of God where Jesus will welcome us with open arms. All we need to do is continue to pray each day and be faithful to him. And so today we ask the Lord to help us to understand even more deeply the reality of the person of Jesus Christ. St. John Damascene died in the year 700. He was the last of the Eastern fathers of the church. He was known for his many beautiful homilies on the Blessed Mother, and he composed hymns and wrote poems. He put together what we would call today the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It was a catechism. It was a compendium of all the dogmatic teachings of the church. It was a great writing that is still followed in the Eastern Rite Catholic churches. St. John Damascene is just another example of someone who took the reality of Christ and wanted to communicate it with his people. And we have the same gift today in the church from St. Thomas Aquinas and from so many other wonderful saints who have passed on to us the teachings and the faith of Jesus Christ. And so we give thanks to God for the reality of Jesus here in this Mass. Oh, one other thing that St. John Damascene did was he confronted the iconoclasts. The iconoclasts were those people who put down veneration of statues and pictures and stained glass windows and so forth, and they wanted to destroy them all. And St. John Damascene was one who put into perspective the importance of religious art in sculpture and in paintings. My last course that I took in the seminary was a 4 or 5 week course in Europe. And the title of the course was The Influence of Religious Art on the Faith Life of the Church. And it was very interesting to see most of the beautiful sculptures and paintings and mosaics and so forth in the churches in Europe were created at a time when the people were basically illiterate. Most people couldn't read. But the priests could teach by pointing to these objects in the church. So for example, if the stained glass windows depicted all of the 10 Commandments, people could look at them and see them. And you talk about the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph, you could look to their statues. It gives a visual aid to what we're teaching. Just like you have a picture of your grandmother in your house somewhere and she's already gone to heaven. Well, you don't worship the picture frame. The picture reminds you of her, the person who you love so much and who you want to imitate in your life. And that's what the saints and the stained glass windows and all of the religious art in the church does. It helps us to learn more about Christ and about the scriptures and about the teachings of the church. And it gives us a visual aid to that. So I look at the statue of our Blessed Mother and I remember who she was. I remember how important she was to God in bringing his son into the world. I remember her faith and her devotion, her utterly total commitment to Christ, even at the cross. And just by looking at her statue, we think of all those things, and that helps us in our own spiritual growth. So St. John Damascene taught that how important religious art was in the faith life of the church. Let us stand now and offer our prayers and petitions.